says connecting, so we should be live streaming again. I apologize if, let's see, should be working. I don't know. Possibly. Are we good? Are we golden? It says we're going. Don't know. Are we good? Is anybody here? We'll see. So yeah, it looks like we're live again. The I don't know what happened. We dropped the stream. Looks like it doesn't say that we redid it here, but I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully the frames stop dropping. I switched to my 5G internet connection here. Supposedly it says it's 5G. I don't know. It's based on the I don't know. Speeds are dropping a bit, but we'll see. Hopefully it works. Anyway, so we're going to kind of take it from the top again because I'm going to delete the other live stream that we did just because it's going to be incomplete. So we'll start here. We're talking about algae today, right? So we're talking about how to destroy algae in your aquarium because it is oftentimes a problem for a lot of people. And a lot of people, they see these aquariums online and the tanks are unrealistic because algae happens in every aquarium. You have to keep in mind when people take photos of their aquarium, they're taking it under the best possible circumstances, meaning that they've cleaned everything, they've, you know, really just made it look really pretty, and that it's, you know, a everyday type scenario. Every tank here has some issues. So that's why, and I even see somebody commented on the blackout method, which is one method of getting rid of algae. It's basically the nuclear option when things just are not working. So let me just, I just want to make sure something, yeah, okay, we're good. So yeah, so algae is going to happen regardless. Usually within the first, and I apologize for Nova, she's talking over there. I don't know if it's picking it up, probably. But, let's see. It's still, what the hell's going on here? My stream is all over the place. I apologize. Is it working? I don't even think it's working. Let's go to live. Are we good? I think we're good. I don't know. Hopefully it's working. God, this is making me. This is where you're making it so much worse. But this is what happens when you do live streams. You don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, so algae happens. It's just the way of the tank. It's usually going to happen after the first couple months. You'll start getting algae showing up here and there. And that causes a problem because you're looking at your plants or you're looking at your tank and it's covered in stuff. Hence why, like, this tank has some algae in it right now. You can see some of the moss is browning. It doesn't look the greatest even on camera. I'm looking now. And that's because I'm dosing stuff to try and kill algae because that's a method that I'm trying on this aquarium. So, when it comes to algae, a lot of people say, oh, you can get this creature, put it in there, and it'll eat the algae. And, well, it's true, there are some critters that will eat stuff. It's not the best way to do it because unless your tank was specifically made to keep those, you know, in that tank, you had those in your initial plan, you're adding stuff that may not necessarily be ideal for your aquarium. For instance, a lot of people with like a nano tank, like a small little, you know, cube tank, maybe you'll get blackbeard algae and people are like, oh, well, get Siamese algae eaters for your aquarium. They'll be, you know, they'll eat it, but then you can't really put those in a nano tank because they should be in like a 40 gallons or more. So Siamese algae eaters aren't ideal for that. And there's a couple other small may eat blackbeard algae, but in general, they're the best when it comes to it. However, you need you need a big enough aquarium to do it. So when it comes to getting rid of algae, there's really a couple things that you need to do and a couple line items here. First, you want to inspect, figure out what type of algae you have. You could easily take a photo of it. You could post it online. You'll get some feedback. Ask people what it is. They'll tell you, you know, what they think it is, and then you research it more, compare with other pictures, and see if that's in fact what you have. Once you've identified what you have, that's really the hardest part, is figuring out what type of algae you have, because then you can look up and figure out how to treat that specific algae. So when it comes to, like, say, blackbeard algae, that's from too much flow. Usually it's caused on your filter outputs or your power heads. What, you want to be on the live stream too? What? Yeah, I see you. Novus on the other side of the room. Yeah. Really? Daddy can't live stream with you. You're being too loud. So, Blackbeard algae forms on the outputs of filters and on the... Really? You gotta be really loud? You. Oh. I can't. So, when Blackbeard algae... Really? I'm trying to talk here. You gonna overtalk me? Yeah, come here. Hold on. Come here. So do you want to be so noisy? Maybe I'll put you over here and we'll get more likes. Oh, okay. Yeah, there we are. Alright. Oh, yep, there you go. She has a little bit of a cough right now, but she's doing good. You okay? Okay. So, when it comes to Blackbeard algae, this is the one that I want to hit on because this one is pretty much the most common one that I always see people asking about. Yeah, that's right. So it grows in high flow areas, so filter outputs, power heads, that kind of stuff. Usually what's causing it is high organics, and that could be a wide variety of things. Basically, it has to do with carbon. So carbon is found in wood, it's found in your substrate if you have like aqua soils. Usually high organics are in aqua soils and whatnot. It's also from CO2. So if you have CO2 injections and fluctuations with your CO2 can cause Blackbeard algae. So once you've identified that you have Blackbeard algae, there's a couple of different ways to kind of get rid of it. One, fix the problem. So if you have high organics in your water and you're not injecting CO2, what you want to do is you want to do more water changes. You want to take some of those organics out because a lot of things are decomposing in your aquarium. They're increasing the CO2 levels, and that's causing the Blackbeard algae. And this could be, you know, a wide variety of things. Also, when it comes to Blackbeard algae, it could also be CO2 problems. So if you have CO2 injection, you need to adjust it maybe down or up because you probably either have too much or too little. So once you've done those things, you want to give it some time. And you only want to usually change one thing at a time because if you change multiple things, like you adjust your light, you put it maybe in a different time cycle, you black out the window if it's by a window, or you do any subtle change, you kind of just want to let it do its thing for a couple weeks and see if that improves it. Because when you change a bunch of things and it still hasn't done anything, you don't know which one is kind of the cause at all. Or even if it did work, you don't know what really stopped the algae from forming. So you really want to just make one change at a time and give it at least like 2 to 3 weeks to see if there's an improvement. But once you make that change, what you need to do is you need to actually go in and manually remove or disrupt as much of the algae as you can. So when it comes to Blackbeard algae or hair algae, my go-to is hydrogen peroxide. I keep this stuff right down here because I'm using it to treat a lot of different things. And hydrogen peroxide is just a great overall tool that we should have in our tool belts when it comes to our aquariums. The other more nuclear option is Flourish Excel. So I don't use this stuff for a CO2 substitute. I don't believe it works properly. But when it comes to eliminating algae, it's a great algicide, and that's kind of my last line to kind of get rid of algae, besides the blackout method, which you can see here. So once you've removed the type of algae that you have as much as you can, you disrupt it. Yeah, maybe you get in there with like, yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're too cute. You get in there with like a toothbrush or something and you disrupt that algae. Yeah. Okay. That's a good thing because you're getting rid of a lot of it as possible, and then you'll be able to see if it starts growing back on its own, then you know whatever you did not work. So With like black beard algae, you can either spot dose with like this. Mostly any hair algae, you could spot dose with hydrogen peroxide. You can take it in a little pipette, which I don't have my pipette, or a big turkey baster, depending on what you're dealing with. You suck up the hydrogen peroxide. You could do the same thing with Excel. Excel is a little more excessive. And you kind of just spritz it on the areas that are infected. When you do that, you want to turn off your filter because you don't want it being blown around at first. You want it to sit there. And you're going to let it do its thing for like 15, 20 minutes. And then you're going to turn back on your filter and let it circulate the aquarium again. The reason being... Yeah. The reason being is when you immediately inject it, that chemical or the CO2 or the hydrogen peroxide is going to immediately start reacting to that algae and it's going to start killing it off. So if you do that, and you need to repeat it every couple of days just to really get a hold on the algae, and that'll really set you up. You know, that cough. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you waving now? You figured out how to wave? You're interrupting my lesson. You're interrupting it. Yeah? Okay, we're just gonna do a live stream with you. You're waving? You figured that out today? Yeah? So where was I? So the best thing is, once you start removing the algae through those methods, and you have it under control as far as what's there and you've destroyed it, most algae will actually either turn white or gray or or whatever once they're starting to die off, and that's a good thing. So then, you know, after time goes by, you can see if that change had any effect, and then you can make another change if it still didn't do anything. So those are really kind of the steps to try and kind of troubleshoot algae. And if it really gets bad, you can add in algae eaters. And we're going to kind of go over the algae eaters that I recommend as well when it comes to this. So the live stream has a new star. Yeah, she's more liked than I am. Yeah? Why? So, a couple algae eaters that I prefer. One, Nerite snails. They're by far... Yeah. I don't know what you're doing, but you're being cute as hell. So, Nerite snails. They're great at cleaning glass. Cleaning glass is like just the number one chore that I hate to do. Yeah. I know. Yeah, I recently spoke at Brooklyn Aquarium Society meeting, and this is all she was doing while I was talking. Yeah. Yeah. You want to be a speaker too? You want to tell people? What? So the Nerite snails help clean the glass, which is really the biggest chore of the aquarium, is keeping the glass clean. But they've also been known to eat blackbeard algae, as well as many other types of just like small, fine hair algae. Sometimes they'll eat it as well. So those are my number one. If you have to get anything, Nerite snails can be put in almost any aquarium. They're small, they don't reproduce relatively, and they're easy to care for. What? Number two would be autocinclus. Autocinclus are little tiny catfish. Those are great also at cleaning glass and rocks. But they do like to be kept in bigger schools. Typically 6 or more is ideal. And adding 6 fish into your aquarium may not be an option. So those are why they're behind the Nerite snails. What? That's my finger. Don't eat my finger. Don't eat my finger. Don't. Ew. Behind autocinclus, you have reticulated flying fox. Or, oh, here we go. Mommy's got the bobo. There you go. Here. Maybe this will keep you quiet. even though everybody's loving it. So after the autos, you have Siamese algae eaters or reticulated flying foxes. They're very similar fish. Reticulateds can go in a lot smaller aquariums, where Siamese algae eaters prefer a bigger one. Reticulateds, you could probably put in like a 25 or higher tank, and they'll do just great. They eat lots of hair algae, staghorn algae, blackbeard algae, green types of algae, other than there's this one, it's Spyro something. It's very difficult to get rid of. I know because I have it in my 55 tank and I've been trying to get rid of it. Really the only method to that is manual removal. Behind those algae eaters, people also recommend mollies for blackbeard algae, guppies, blackbeard algae. They'll actually pick at them using their mouths because they're just nippy fish when it comes to plant matter. They don't eat plants, but they'll nip at algae. And then shrimp. So Amano shrimps are pretty good at cleaning some algae, but overall, when it comes to like the hair algae and whatnot that people try and prevent with the Amano shrimp, you really just have to stay on top of your maintenance. The shrimp or the fish or the snails aren't going to eliminate you from having to do that maintenance to try and remove those algae. You still have to do your part. They're more of just kind of extra people to help you try and do that. But if you have an autocinkless catfish and you have hair algae, the auto is not going to eat the hair algae. And vice versa, if you have like green spot algae on your glass, the Siamese algae eater is not going to eat the green spot algae on the glass. They're two different types of fish and they have two different purposes. And their mouths really kind of show that. And same thing with plecos. So plecos and autocinkless have more of a sucking mouth. They get red up on the glass. And they're able to just hold on and just really like suck on the glass and remove that algae, as well as rocks and driftwood and all that. But when it comes to Siamese algae eaters, they have more of a beak-like mouth, and that's for tearing and ripping stuff, and that's why they're able to eat the hair algae. So that's kind of really it. When it comes to algae, just to summarize, figure out what it is, treat, fix what you fix what you think is probably the cause. And then treat what you have going on, try and remove it. Last, worst case scenario, nuke it with Excel, or maybe substitute some maintenance with getting a designated algae eater for that purpose. But now we're going to tune into the comments and questions and stuff and see what other people are saying about this topic. And we'll go from there. We'll see what's going on. So welcome everybody. Ghost says, hello, is it me you're looking for? It is. Blackout method, things must be serious. So Billy's commenting on the blackout method. So this is the last worst case scenario when you have a type of algae that you really just can't get rid of. You can black out your tank with a black garbage bag like I'm doing here, kill your light, and keep your things going. Now, I don't have any fish in here, so I could really just manually break it down and start fresh. But the reason why I'm doing this is because there's a possibility that the algae that I have growing in here could be dangerous to humans. So I'm allowing it to die off naturally by blocking its light rather than disrupting it. And once, I mean, it still hasn't disappeared. It's been like this for a couple days and things are still growing even in this low light. So once things have kind of settled out, I'll go in there and I'll manually remove it. So blackout method is the last kind of I give up method. Up, she spat. Yeah, you spat out the binky. There you go. Jenny says, I've already kind of given up trying to take good clean pics videos because there'll be hair and brown algae somewhere. Yeah, it's always bound to be there. I mean, you could really, it's all about how you position your photos. That's another topic for another video, but taking photos of an aquarium is its a whole other art form. Is too much algae bad for your tank? Oh, this is what I forgot to mention because on the other live stream that got messed up. Algae is forming because there's a problem in your aquarium when it comes to nutrients or levels of nutrients or too much light or too little light, and they're there to substitute whatever is happening. So algae is actually a really good thing, even though we don't like it from an aesthetic standpoint. There's nothing wrong with having algae in your aquarium. The problem is when algae starts overtaking plants, because what you want is you want the plants to grow, and if the algae is covering the plants, they're not really going to be able to grow effectively. So there's a fine balance where you have to find, okay, is it so much algae that the plant's not going to get any light or the plants are going to die? Or is there just a small amount of it and that, you know, it's not really affecting it that much? The other thing is when you have more, like another trick to combating algae is more plants. The more plants you have and concentrating on growing plants, the more they're going to utilize all those things that are going to make algae happen. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Well, I like how you know how to do this now. What? That's my hand. Yeah. So the real big thing is concentrate on growing plants. Treat the algae. Do what you need to try and keep it at bay and from really getting out there. Really? Here, pacifier. Pacifier. Yeah. Yeah. No? Here. Okay. Shh, Daddy. Oh, that didn't last long. Here. Okay, I'll hold it there until you get a grip on it. So yeah, growing plants really just helps to reduce the amount of algae that you're gonna get, and more plants are better. If you could just slam pack your aquarium with plants, you'll be better off. Can you show how you escape your tanks or escape your tanks? Caitlin, every tank in this room I've shown on video in depth of what we've done with it. So I only started having algae issues when I switched to twin star lights. Those things pump the lumens out. I had to buy a dimmer and cut the hours to 7 hours on the lights to try and fix it. All good now. Yeah, so algae, you could go a couple months without doing anything and you'd be algae free. You may switch out your light, or you may switch out your filter, or you may change something in the aquarium, and all of a sudden you get algae. That's very common, because you have to realize that once you have a cycled, balanced aquarium that's been set up, let's say, for 8 months, and you don't have any issues, when you change something, you all of a sudden have changed all the dynamics of that aquarium. Because let's say you get a more powerful light. Now all of a sudden, your plants are used to growing under one set of light, and you have the plant mass to be under that light, and now you have way it's okay. And now you have way more light and still the same amount of plants. Yay! Yeah, that's right. Hi. If you use potting mix in an aquarium, must it be organic? I would advise that it's organic. That way you can make sure that there's no chemicals or anything added. You definitely don't want to be adding in chemicals. My algae got bad when I removed all my duckweed. Yeah, so that's the thing. When you have so many plants, they're helping to combat those. Okay, I'm pretty sure you're blowing out people's microphone or headphones. There. So, yeah, duckweed especially, because duckweed's doing two things. One, it's blocking light from getting to the rest of the aquarium, and two, because it grows so fast, it's absorbing so much nutrients that may be in your aquarium. So it's doing two different things, and when you start scooping out a ton of duckweed, guess what? All that new light is getting down to the aquarium, and there's a lot less nutrients being uptaked by them. So, yes, that is duckweed is a good thing for that reason, but also a terrible thing because it sucks. Who does she look like the most so far? A lot of people say me, but some people say they see Margaret too, but mostly me. Yeah, yep, that's my beard. Hey, Robert, how's it going? Aquascaping 101, what's going on? Are you or Margaret teaching her Spanish too? I've been telling Margaret to talk to her in Spanish only, but she hasn't yet. Margaret. Thank you, Mike, for the kind words. She is a cute kid. So I see here Uri has a eating snail eating leech problem in his aquarium. If you still have that problem, try dosing fenbendazole or dog dewormer, and that will most likely take care of it. The live stream does have a new star. How much would you dip a plant in peroxide to kill everything on it but not harm the plant? I don't want to use chlorine. Well, when it comes to dipping plants, that's a really a whole nother topic to go with. But typically, I don't dip plants. I find it that if I dip the plant, one, it can harm the plant. No matter what you do, if you do an alum dip, a bleach dip, a potassium permanganate dip, all these different dips that you could do, salt dips that people do, I find that damages the plant, whether some do it a little or a lot. And that can really be detrimental to that plant surviving. So, in my mind, if I had one aquarium, and I didn't have all these aquariums, or I only have maybe like 2 or 3 aquariums, I wouldn't bother to dip my plants. I would probably quarantine them if I was seriously worried. I would just put them in a separate tank, let them be there for like 2 months, see how they grow, and then if I spot algae, I can treat there versus bringing it into my other aquarium. What? Yeah. But quarantining may not be an issue for everybody. So I kind of just go with, let's put it in the aquarium. First, I do a good visual inspection before I put any plants in the aquariums. You always want to look for like gibba. I've gone in depth in another video on gibba, but I have gibba in this tank, and I had gibba in that tank, and that's why we're having all these issues right now because of what I did to it. But the gibba is a parasitic plant in my eyes, especially when it comes to these kind of setups. I don't want it in there, so that's a problem. But when it comes to treating, I kind of just throw the plants in, see how they grow, let them do their thing, and if there's algae, I'll figure it out along the way, because it's bound to happen regardless. And the benefits that you get from bleach dipping, you're not always going to kill everything, and you risk losing the plants. So when it comes to like if I was on just my own budget and buying plants, I'd rather deal with algae problems with only 1 or 2 aquariums than risk losing the plants that I just spent money on. But you may not be on that mindset, and you may say, nope, I need to bleach dip, and you definitely can, but that's not what I want. Turn the sound down on the Yankees Red Sox game to learn about algae. Going back to the game, FYI, Yanks are winning. Good night. Later, Robert. Thanks for hanging out. In my tank, it's because of too much light and inconsistent CO2, I think. So now I'm kind of doing a blackout. Yeah. Would you say overfeeding causes algae? Yeah, typically overfeeding will cause algae, but not usually a lot of hair algae. It's mostly spot algae or green water that I see happen. It's very possible. Oh, you ready to go to mommy? Can you say goodnight to everybody? She's doing bye-bye. She's going like this. Go like this. Show everybody. Come on. Come on, you could do it. You were just doing it. Go like this. Don't let mommy distract you. Come on. No?
Who's daddy talking to?
Come on. Can you go like that? No?
Who's daddy talking to?
Okay.
You talking to Heifers?
Oh my god. Come on. Okay. Bye-bye. Watch her passive verb. She might spit it out. Okay. Really? Can you open that so they can get out? And they're walking around. It's annoying.
Your daughter's talking to them.
She's cute. I mean, the dogs are cute too, but... Oh, did I drop? I think I dropped. We dropped the feed. Oh, we're back. Okay. Sorry. Matt Fish Divas says definitely having a timer is really important too. Yeah, that's